Hello everyone, I'm Andrew and welcome to a very special display video because as you can see I'm not sitting on the couch because today I'm actually behind the camera because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look around my entire collection. It's going to be sort of, I guess, walking around the room, showing off a whole bunch of different things that I have because I know I'm in display videos. I've sort of just been showing a few things at a time, but what we're going to do today, I know it's getting kind of close up here, but we're just going to take a look at pretty much everything. So yeah, all the games and consoles and different things I have, there sure is a lot. I'm just going to go through it pretty much one by one. I guess I'll start by sitting down on the couch here and actually showing you what I look at when I make my videos. You can see there my reflection of it there. But yeah, this TV has 16 consoles hooked up to it if you include the 32X and Sega CD as different consoles. So a whole bunch of different things there. That's a CDI up there. You have the Neo Geo here. Wii, Xbox, and you can't see them from where I am, but you have the NES2 and NES there. The original NES actually isn't hooked up, so I didn't count that in the 16, but yeah, the NES2 is hooked up, so that's really cool. And yeah, so this is pretty much where I play most of my video games and make my videos. I also have a PlayStation 3, but that's up in my room. So yeah, you're not going to see anything really from PlayStation 3 down here, except for maybe the box or something like that. But yeah, so that pretty much covers that. Neo Geo here, yeah, I didn't count that either. It's not really hooked up, because when I'm going over to the NES, I don't really want to trip over the cord since I usually just plug it into the front of the TV there. But yeah, that's pretty much my TV setup. A bunch of different interesting things. They're down there at the very bottom. We have the 3DO and Turbo Duo, which is really neat. And that white cord there is an extension cord for the Turbo Duo controller, because that controller is way too short. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so top of the TV is a small collection of video game themed energy drinks. And on the wall here, just a few posters I've picked up over time, and a really unfitting clock. I mean, video game room, and then you have a Simpsons clock. I've been wanting to get a more like retro themed clock or something like that, and I'm sure I'll get around to that one day. And then a calendar I pulled out of an issue of Nintendo Power a long time ago for the dates that you should try to beat the different micro games on them, Wario or Inc. So then over here, we have sort of like the PlayStation Tower. So you look at the top, and you have gun accessories, boxes, a neat thing that comes out for you to put your games in. Then you have a whole stack of the original PlayStations, and I don't know, like, you find them, and they're always really cheap, and there's not much you can do to get rid of them, because everyone just wants PlayStation 2, and the original ones are a dime a dozen, so I just end up hanging on to them. They have a really neat arcade stick for PlayStation back there. Down here we have more PlayStation 2 themed stuff. PlayStation 2 in the box, and things like that. And if we go down, we have Virtual Boy. Hope there's enough light that you can see it. There's 3 Virtual Boys on this shelf right now. You might not be able to see the one in the back. And there's actually a Virtual Boy in a box too if you look to the bottom left there. And then you have the PlayStation screen. And then you also have some Professor Layton stuff in the back, back there, like a figure and the DVD Eternal Diva, but I guess you can't really see that. And then if we look at the very bottom, you have a whole bunch of weird fake consoles, like that super video game thing that looks like a PlayStation that actually plays Famicom games, and you have a thing in the back that looks like a Mega Drive, but it actually plays Famicom games. There's so many fake consoles out there that play Famicom games. But yeah, the real meat of my collection is definitely lies with the NES, because my real goal is to try and collect as many NES games as possible, and one day I would love to have them all. So far, right now, I'm up to 620 different NES games. So yeah, this is pretty much, this is most of them right here. They actually don't all fit on this side of the shelf, so there's some more elsewhere. And then, as you can see, there's a whole bunch of neat things in between the shelves too. Like, I have all my, most of my box games on front again. They can't all fit up there. And then in between, we have some arcade sticks, some Super Famicom games, or Japanese Super Nintendo, both Japanese and European games there. Some Japanese Super Nintendo with a converter for playing them on a North American Nintendo 64. If we go down here, we have a neat PlayStation disc holding case. Ars Nelico 3 GameStop display case. I absolutely love that game, although you won't find any of them down here. I have all 3 of the games in the series upstairs in my indestructible safe, because I absolutely love that series. First 2 were PlayStation 2, and then the last one was PlayStation 3. And then down here we have the portable NES blip, and then that. And then that's about it for here. We'll get to that stack of discs over there. If we look at the bottom, just a whole bunch of miscellaneous things. Mostly empty cases, that's what these are. Although my Nintendo 64 collection kind of gets mistreated. They're all in those red bins at the bottom. I don't have enough room to put everything, unfortunately. I guess Nintendo 64 was just the easiest to put down there. Plus, you can put things on top of them since there's really no harm or a chance of wrecking a label on top, because I'm always afraid of that with things like setting games on top of NES games and stuff like that. And of course we have Half-Life 1 and 2, very awesome games. I'm not going to get started on the whole Half-Life 3 thing though. And then some miscellaneous books and some extra NES instruction manuals that I have, and then a massive heap of cords down there. I'm not even going to get started on what's in there. So yeah, if we look up, actually I have a whole bunch of, I hope it focuses better than that, because the light's kind of bright since it's right there. But a whole bunch of things hanging from the ceiling. Neat things, e-reader cards, usually accessories you can buy, and things like that. Just things that are easy to hang from the ceiling. And we have some display things also up there, and things like that. But what I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn around, and we're going to start with the shelves that are to the right of the TV if you're facing it. So what we have up here is we have a whole bunch of, this is mainly a Sega area, so you have a whole bunch of different Master Systems up there, and the Sega CD, Genesis, and a whole tower of Genesis boxes here, because what I really love collecting consoles in their original boxes, and all the different variations and things like that. I make an effort to collect things, and all the boxes are full, unless I otherwise note that they aren't. Like, for example, that Turbo Duo box is not full. That's the only one I have is actually the one I showed you that was hooked up to the TV. Then you have the Action Max, the only console that plays games with VHS, and I'll show you some of those VHSs later. And if we continue going down, we'll get to my CDI shelf, which is partly being taken over by some PlayStation 2 stuff, since I don't have a whole ton of CDI accessories. Although you do have the really creepy rollerball controller with those really creepy kids on the front that I'm not going to start on. We got two different variations of the CDI here, and you can see the two different remotes down there, and the Mega Man with a completely blue face for some reason. I have a whole bunch of different Mega Man toys and stuff like that scattered all throughout. And here's like my master password for Mega Man X3, which is for some reason on the wall. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much the CDI stuff that I have. And then if we go down, we have the TurboGrafx shelf, which is pretty neat. So TurboGrafx there. We have a Super Graphics in the styrofoam there. Unfortunately, it's missing the box because Japanese boxes, they usually got wrecked since it wasn't really a box. It was more just like a sort of cardboard thing that sat on top. So yeah, that went missing at some point. I never actually had it. I just got it without that. And we have a whole bunch of different box things here, control sticks, and the really neat, hopefully this works. I mean, hopefully you can see this. The Turbo Express, which lets you play TurboGrafx games anywhere. And it also has the TV tuner attachment to it, which unfortunately doesn't work anymore because they went and disabled all those wireless TV signals. So it's kind of too bad because it was really convenient to use if there was ever like a power outage or anything like that. So yeah, so that's pretty much that row of stuff. Here we have another TurboGrafx box, PlayStation 3 box. Some of the boxes for like newer consoles like PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. I've just picked up empty boxes. They're not actually mine. So if you see a whole bunch of PlayStation 3 boxes, don't think I have like 6 PlayStation 3s. Because I don't actually only have one. But yeah, what we have here is we have Vectrex shelf with my Mario and Luigi pillows that my grandma made for me years and years ago, based off of those styrofoam ones you've probably seen on the wall. Because I was a huge fan of Mario ever since, like, I was like, who knows how old. So yeah, she took those and then she made these pillows based on them. But as you can see, there's a Vectrex box behind that, behind them. And there's another one there, and they're both full. So I actually have 3 Vectrexes. One of them's like complete and mint. I think it's probably been played like once. There's not a scratch on it. And the other one is very similar, except for some reason the screen doesn't work. Almost like it never worked for some reason, because it definitely doesn't look like anyone did anything wrong to it. And then yeah, so this is pretty much the Vectrex I use. The first one I ever got, it's not in perfect shape, so I just usually keep this one out of the box and use the games with it. And we'll see some of the games for that later. But yeah, Vectrex is a pretty neat console. If we go down here, you will see my Sega Saturn shelf. And what we've got here is just a whole bunch of different accessories and stuff like that for the Sega Saturn. Different controllers, boxes. The white one is a Japanese Saturn, and the black one is the North American version. I don't think there was any different colors for the North American one. But I know the Japanese one was like white and gray and a few different things. Maybe even a clear one, and I think I might have seen it at one point. If we go down, we approach the Sega shelf. This is just really a mishmash of different Sega things. I have so many different Sega related things. I kind of feel bad for how mistreated it gets, but there's just so much of it, and I don't have enough room to take proper care of it all. But if we go over here on the shelf, we'll see some neat things. Like we have the Sega 3D glasses. If we look here, the Sega CDX, which plays original Genesis games and CD games all in one console. If we go over here, we'll see the incredibly small Sega Genesis 3. I know I'm getting a bit close here. So hopefully you can see all this. And yeah, just a whole mishmash of cords and different things. Yeah, like I said, I feel bad about how mistreated it is. I really need more space to properly spread things like that out. If we look down there, you can actually see the corner of the CDI box. I know Philips CDI boxes are something you don't really see, and they're just really like plain and that ugly box color and stuff like that. So it's nothing really special like an NES box or a real video game console box that looks really nice. Then we have some contact cleaner and Q-tips to keep my NES games nice and clean. And then down here we have a Japanese Sega Saturn massive arcade stick, which is really cool. We have the Qbert mini arcade in the back. Empty Xbox 360 box, again like I said, it's not really a box I bought. And then we have the Halo 3 Special Edition, which I actually bought really cheap, as I don't know if you can see the price tags there, but like I bought it like years after it came out. Zellers was unloading them for like 20 bucks, so I said, might as well grab one. Over here, if we keep moving on, look at the top, some Xbox stuff with a really old Mega Man toy there, and we have the Dreamcast shelf. And as you can see to the left, we have the Dreamcast Sports Edition in the box and one outside of it. We have the Japanese Dreamcast box, which is just plain with the swirl logo on it. I've always liked that. And then you have the North American Dreamcast box, which looks completely different. Although it shows a picture of the console, so that's pretty neat. And we have the fishing rod and an arcade stick there. Moving down, we actually have some more Dreamcast stuff. We have a Dreamcast Japanese arcade stick in the box, controller in the box, a carrying bag for it. Dance Dance Revolution, Japanese, and then a whole bunch of different things, memory cards, controllers, whole ton of awesome stuff, so, and maracas, so that's pretty neat. And if we go down, we have another Genesis sort of shelf. We have control stick there, controllers, and then we also have a Genesis and actually also a Mega Drive, a European Mega Drive. I think it's the top one. Unfortunately, you can't see it was the Menacers on top there, but yeah. That's what that is. And if we look down here at the bottom, we have the Game Wave, which is pretty much just like a system that was pretty much made for trivia games. As you can see, the controllers there, they're pretty much just TV remotes. That's all it really is just answering trivia questions and stuff like that with the remote. And we have some boxed little mini arcades there, reproduced ones though, not like the Qbert one, which was the really old version. So we have like the remade Frogger and stuff like that here. And then if you look down there, we have a 3DO in the box. And another 3DO there. I think the one I had hooked up to the TV was the Gold Star one. This is actually the Panasonic one. Yeah, there was a whole bunch of different versions of the 3DO there. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this half of the room. I guess we'll move on. So if we look here on my air hockey table, or sorry, this is the foosball table. We'll get to the air hockey table later. Whole bunch of things. Unfortunately, I don't get to play too much air hockey, or foosball, because I'm always setting things on top of it. The air hockey table really became more of a workbench, but we have the Neo Geo box, then we have my sister's red 3DS box, and then we have something I just received in the mail, and number 3 of a Gakten Saiban, or of 3, and or Turnabout Courtroom 3, or Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, Trials and Tribulations. I love the Ace Attorney series, along with the Layton series, so Layton versus Phoenix Wright is going to be amazing, or Ace Attorney. Anyway, we have this really weird thing here, which is pretty much just like a shooting range sort of simulator thing. So that's pretty much what that is. If we look to the right here, I have a few different stand-up things for video games. Like this one here is a Mario Sports Mix. Then there's the box for a Sega wheel down there, which is actually sitting right there. And then a few boxes full of a whole bunch of different sorts of odds and ends. We have New Super Mario Brothers Wii here. So yeah, that's pretty neat. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sort of, actually no, let's slip back here first. So we have the TV now. So if we go left, on the other side of the things that were holding the NES games, we have a whole bunch of different stuff. Lots of Sega stuff. So the whole top row there is Sega Master System, some card games for the Sega Master System. And we also have a whole bunch of Genesis games. The cases take up so much room. So it's I actually have like an overflow stack of Sega Genesis games elsewhere, which you'll see. And a whole bunch of loose games at the bottom there, which are pretty neat. And something I didn't mention before we went back there that I was going to is my stack of CDI games on the right. And a whole bunch of different PC things on the left. But yeah, I have I guess it's not true, a CDI game. CDI had a whole bunch of different things. Movies, games, interactive things. But yeah, most of them are movies, like Wayne's World right there. But then, of course, you have Link in the Faces of Evil, or the always famous Hotel Mario down there, which is pretty fun. Not fun, I mean funny and pretty terrible, because you're just laughing at how bad it is and how you can't beat the first world because the controls are absolutely terrible. The controller being absolute garbage doesn't help either. So I don't know how well you're going to be able to see back here, because there's not much room in between the wall and this thing. But here's a whole bunch of different Dreamcast games and some 3DO games here in the big boxes, and some Sega Genesis arcade sticks on top. If we move down, whole row of PlayStation stuff. Not all my PlayStation stuff, again, that had to be moved elsewhere because I ran out of room. And we have a whole ton of Atari stuff. and older stuff if we keep going down. Because yeah, like this is a really long thing, and it's actually double stacked. So if we like take out a stack of games, you'll see that actually there's even other stacks behind it. I have a few hundred Atari games. There's a whole ton of them. If we go down, we have a ColecoVision, Atari 7800, 5200, and television. A whole bunch of other old things like that. I think we're going to get out of here now. I'm getting kind of claustrophobic. No, not really, but hopefully that turned out alright. And what we have up here is we have another variation of the Japanese Dreamcast box. We also have the Red Bomb Mom stuffed toy that my good friend Oliver gave me. So we're going to keep moving on back here. And we sort of have a computer desk area thing here. So as you can see, there's 3 monitors. This one's hooked up to the Amiga, which is right there. This one is hooked up to the Mac. I am not a Mac person. I actually picked this up for really cheap. And I just said, hey, I have that space on the computer desk. Might as well set it up just for fun. Yeah, I'm definitely a Windows person, but power to those who are Mac people, I guess. I'm not going to say anything. So here we have Atari ST. And that's hooked, Atari monitor. And that's hooked up to the Atari ST, which is kind of hidden back there, is you can't really have everything hooked up at once, and the Mac keyboard kind of pulls out there. We have a whole bunch of stuff over here. We have the Dazzle that I use for recording my videos off the TV, and the box for the webcam, or not webcam, but just the camcorder that I'm using right now. And then that's all on top of an Atari 800 XL box. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different things here. Floppy disks, in case I ever need them for some reason someday. This thing here, really neat on the wall, just a sort of Game Boy game holder. Just put all your favorite Game Boy games in it. So you got Super Mario Land, Wario Land, Pokemon. Just put a whole bunch of crazy multi-carts on the bottom too. Just to get them out of the way, I guess. Back here what we have, whole bunch of games. We have a whole row of GameCube there. Kind of keeps going until it turns into Wii. I have a Wii in my room too, so it's sort of the overflow games that I don't play too often sort of ended up down here. Then we have some Japanese PlayStation, and then some regular PlayStation overflow over there too. We'll go check that out in more detail. I'm just standing here. Let me check most of this out. Then we have most of my PlayStation 2 games. Like I said, there's a few in my room. Normally the ones I play a lot in the RPG. So you have Atelier Iris, and Ars Nelico, Phantom Brave, stuff like that. That's all in my room. But you have a few pretty neat things here, and then as you probably saw, it turns into Xbox down there more towards the end. If we keep going down, we have Sega CD, and then it turns into Sega Saturn, and if we keep going, it eventually turns into TurboGrafx, which turns into Atari Jaguar, which turns into original Atari boxes. And then if we go down one more row, just because we can, we have some of those colorful NES cases that I don't really use. And we have some Mega Drive and Genesis Overflow over here. And then we also have a whole bunch of the big box CDI games that I couldn't put on what the stand you saw earlier. And a whole bunch of just really random video game themed bubble machine things. They're really strange. And if we look over here, we have Mario Golf for Game Boy Advance, stand-up thing. And we have an Atari and some broken Sega Genesises, which unfortunately don't work because they're broken, as you couldn't tell. So yeah, I'll just go down here. I guess we'll get a bit closer to some of this stuff, and we'll just have a look. You can see some Japanese PlayStation games, including Final Fantasy 8 and 9. Raiden Project there. And just a whole bunch of neat things. Oh yeah, Game Wave games at the very end. There's only like 13 or something of them, so there's not really too many. Jaguar here. Only really good games. Wolfenstein 3D, I think. Overall, Jaguar's not very good. And definitely not the 64-bit system that they hyped it up to be. Anyway, so I think that's pretty much all there is to see back here. So if we turn around now, and we go back out, we can go over here and look at this, I suppose. We can look at this shelf here. And what we have on here is, if we look at the top, a whole bunch of different neat toys and stuff like that. Batter Up Super Nintendo accessory up there. And then we have the Super Nintendo shelf here. So we have a box for Super NES 2, the second model, and a whole bunch of different boxes for other things, and then the mouse and stuff there, and the random Nintendo clock. So that's pretty neat. And if we keep going down, we have Super Famicom. We have a few disc copiers, so you can actually put back up your Super Nintendo games to disc. Don't know how legal those are, but anyway. So if we keep going down, we have sorry, not Super Nintendo. We just did that. GameCube shelf with Pac-Man mini arcade machine on there. And of course, the shelves are really crowded, so there's probably some really neat stuff in the back that you can't see. Like if we go over there and get a bit closer, I suppose. I'll come back to that 64 shelf at some point, but I guess if we go back here, you can actually see the Korean Game Boy player I managed to pick up. I also had a Korean Super Mario World over there. I don't know if you could see, but it's really neat because it looks like in other places they had different colors of the Game Boy player to sort of match your whatever GameCube color you had. Because here we in North America we only got the black version, which was cool if you had the black GameCube, but it didn't really go well with the purple and silver ones. But yeah, anyway, so that's pretty neat, and that's the GameCube shelf. So if we turn around here, yeah, let's do one more set of shelves before going over to more games. So we just did a whole ton of games. So we have a whole bunch of different things up there. We have Odyssey 2 in the box, and upside a Mario Yahtzee. I've actually never opened, and the question mark box has always been upside down. So I always thought that was funny. We have a whole bunch of Mario Kart toys there, which are really neat. And then we have the Wii shelf, and Wii's in like every different color, red, blue, white, name it. We have a box for it anyway. And there's the Zelda Skyward Sword Special Edition, the Wii Fit balance board, Wii Fit box there, Mario Kart box. So yeah, not too much on the Wii shelf, but pretty neat. And that envelope you see there is the I believe that's the Ocarina of Time 3D soundtrack that you got for registering it on Club Nintendo the day it came out. Over here, Nintendo 64 shelf, whole bunch of different colors there. We have green, orange, blue, and pink. And I don't know if you saw when we were looking at the TV, but the lighter blue one is hooked up to that. Only different color variation I'm missing is the clear or black one, which I unfortunately haven't been able to pick up yet. And then we have the Star Wars Nintendo 64 Special Edition set, which isn't really that great, because it's not. You think like the Nintendo 64 looked cool, but really all it is a console, and it comes with the Star Wars Episode 1 racer game, so it's not really anything special. The only thing that looks cool is the box. So if you threw that out, you pretty much just had a 64 in the game. Anyway, down here we have the Pokemon Pikachu variation of the Nintendo 64, and we have a Nintendo 64 box that came with the special see-through purple controller, a whole bunch of different box accessories like the expansion pack and stuff. We have this thing here, which I guess can't really pull out because that bar's in the way. That's where I keep all my main Nintendo 64 games, so I don't have to go down to where I showed you they were before the place. So like you'll find Mario 64 and Mario Kart and all those fun things in there. So here we have a Japanese Nintendo 64. You can't actually tell that the Japanese Nintendo 64 is any different from the front. Unlike the Famicom and Super Famicom, which were completely different, the only way to tell is really look inside and see what the pins inside look like. Or not the pins, sorry, but see what there's something inside that you can tell which kind of games will go in it. I can't explain it too well. And then on there we have a disc copier for copying games to a CD-ROM. Again, just like the one we saw on the Super Nintendo shelf. Not really any point to that these days, though. And then we have a Japanese Nintendo 64. And it's different because it has the light blue on top and sort of a clear white on the bottom, which is really neat. It's definitely not a color that we got here in North America. So anyway, if we keep moving back, we'll just see a whole bunch of random stuff on this shelf. A box Sega Saturn controller, Super Nintendo arcade sticks, and those come apart too, so it looks like they're attached, but you can also split them, so like two people could use them separately instead of making it stuck together. So yeah, that's pretty much what we have there. Another 64, and some Amigas, which are pretty cool. And if we go up here, so I guess we're going to work our way up now from the bottom since I kind of started already. We have my main NES shelf. So we have an NES there, an NES in the box in the back, the action set, a Famicom on top of a Famicom disk system, a fake Famicom that says Family Video Game on it, and it's yellow and not the right color at all. ASCII Stick 2 Turbo for the Famicom, and the Microvision, which doesn't really belong on this shelf at all, but as I just don't really have anywhere else to put it right now, but I guess we can move that. But yeah, Microvision, it was good. It was sort of a console, and all the games were sort of Arkanoid-like, because the only thing you used to control it was that sort of a rotating circle there, and then, so as you can see, even the game on the front is just a pretty big rip-off of Arkanoid. Then you had a few strange buttons that you could use, but it was pretty funny overall. So anyway, what we have here, like as I was saying, I guess we pretty much finished off this shelf. Just some neat controllers there, Game Genie in the box. I suppose we'll keep moving up. So let's see what we have on the next shelf. I guess we could look at this one. So let's see, we have like NES satellites in the box. My NES hat, I always like that. Zappers in the box, the gray and orange edition. Power Glove in the box. That portable NES that I showed you way back at the beginning, there's the box for that. And then there's also a Super Mario telephone in the box, which is really neat, if you've ever seen that. So we'll put this down for just a second. I'm going to show you that. Yeah, that's really cool, and definitely not too easy to find. Even though it shows the orange one on the front, it's actually green inside. And I think that's probably the best color too, considering it makes the most sense being green. And we have the Aladdin Deck Enhancer, and there's this really crazy idea that they would make this one deck enhancing thing, and then they would make these really small games, and all you would have to do is put the game into the deck enhancer. I guess it was supposed to reduce production costs or something like that. It was pretty strange. Anyway, here we have the power set. And how this works, it's pretty much just the original NES console, and it comes with that game you might have seen that has a world-class track meet, Mario, and Duck Hunt on it. So it came with the power pad, so you could and the zapper, so you could use all three of those games, which is pretty neat. The NES Max controller in the box, it's not really that great of a controller. Anyone who's used it will tell you. It looks cool, but it's not really fun to use. Anyway, up here, NES Advantage in the box, which is really neat. It's a pretty neat arcade stick controller, although it's not really my preferred choice to use when I play my NES games. NES controller box. So as you can see, when you bought controllers back in the NES days, you got 2 in 1 box. None of that buy one for $60 like we have today. That's why I never buy controllers anymore. I was used to make an effort to buy 4 controllers for every system that I had, but just too expensive these days. Anyway, we have the Rob here, and then we have the deluxe set behind him, which comes with Rob, and the Zapper and an NES, so you have Gyromite and Duck Hunt games included. And then you have the separate Gyromite box, which is pretty neat. Comes with all the pieces that you need to play Gyromite. And if we look at the top, after it focuses, we have Famicom in the box and a fake Famicom called Computer and Game underneath it. And then we have the Super Famicom underneath that. Famicom Disk System, Japanese Nintendo, Super Nintendo Mouse, Mario hat, Link statue, Gibdo attacks Link. I've always thought that was funny. You can't see the letters. Yeah, you kind of can. Laser scope for NES. And then just a few more NES boxes and a few toys. So yeah, that's pretty neat. And we will actually be back in just a second. Alright, and we are back. The problem is this video was getting a bit longer than I expected it to be, so I needed to go and free up some space on my memory card. Plus I really needed a drink, so I guess it was a good opportunity to do that too. So anyway, I guess we'll go back to some of the games that I have. Let's see how this will work. As you can see there, that is NBA 2-Ball demo disc. This is probably the rarest item in my collection, because what this is, yeah, it's in a really protective plastic baggie there. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, how that worked is, I think it was the 1998 NBA All-Star game they gave it out. I don't even know if anyone knows exactly who it was given to, like only a select number of people or something like that, but there's only like 4 or 5 of them that have actually surfaced out there, and it's still sealed and everything, so that's probably the rarest thing that I have in my entire collection, so that's actually really neat. As you can see below that, continuation of my NES games, so a whole ton more boxes here, and then the NES games just keep going until they stop just about there. So yeah, so continue it from over there, and then alphabetically it continues to go to the right there. So yeah, like I said, I think 620 games is my total right now, and as you can see, we even have some extra dust covers there, because I make an effort to put dust covers on all my games. So yeah, that means I already have like over 600 dust covers too. A lot of people don't really pay too much attention to them, but I like them. As you can see, the 2 copies of Star Tropics there. Had to make sure I had at least 2 of my favorite game. Yeah. See, a whole bunch of really neat box things there. In between the shelves this time, we have some boxed boxed Famicom games, including Super Mario USA, which is actually what we had as Super Mario Brothers 2 here, which was actually a Doki Doki Panic in Japan. As you can see, a whole bunch of more Famicom games over here. I talked a bit about them in one of my last display videos. So a whole bunch of really bizarre things, a whole bunch of different shapes and colors. And then if we look here, here's my reproduction cart of Nintendo World Championships. And if we look behind that, we have Battle Kid in the Fortress of Peril. I love that game. It's awesome. Definitely should check that out on a Retro USB or a Retro Zone. So here, Famicom Disk System games. We have the real Metroid here, and we have some fake ones below it. And then we have, like I said, converter for playing Super Famicom on Super Nintendo, and then some more boxed Famicom games. So I think that's about it for those shelves. And if we look below, we have Super Nintendo. I have over 200 Super Nintendo games, a whole bunch of good ones like all the Mega Man X's and stuff like that. And then if we look over there, we have some Saturn Overflow, Genesis, and a portable Famicom. So that's really neat. So yeah, here's the air hockey table. As you can see, sort of taken apart an N64 controller there that wasn't working. The 64 wouldn't detect it at all and had some other problems too. Then here we have Space Invaders, reproduced arcade machines, and then a wireless DDR mat for PlayStation 2. DDR's never really been my favorite game. I'm not that good at it. I mean, that's not. I'm not. It's not that I don't like it just because I'm not good at it. But I mean, I don't know. I guess there's other things I would rather be playing. But and I know DDR has that really awesome following. And I mean, it's fun to play from time to time. So anyway, if we look up there, more neat toys. We have Atari XE there. We have the U-Force for NES, complete in the box, and Television 2 complete. Donkey Kong Country Pong. Sorry, not Pong, but Pogs. Who the heck remembers Pogs? The Intiv 3, which is like a remade in television kind of thing. And then we have the Game Boy shelf. And let's see, can I get close enough, but not too close, so you can actually see what's going on here. But yeah, we have a whole ton of Game Boy stuff, whole ton of boxes, Game Boy games. Unfortunately, definitely not enough room for all of them. We have a fake Pokemon game box there. Now, a whole bunch of different stuff. Super Game Boy for Super Nintendo there. Definitely a shelf here I need to get around to fixing one day. Probably should have done that before I took this video, but Anyway, if we keep going down, more Game Boy stuff. We have the Game Boy Game Genie, other things. So a whole bunch of different colors of Game Boy Pocket Color, the original fat one. I think the original fat one was mainly up here, but you can't really see it. I have a few colors of that too, like the original gray, yellow, black, different ones. Yeah, a whole bunch of really neat things. Yeah, unfortunately, I guess you can't really see too much of the Game Boy stuff. I mean, if you look back there, you can see a Japanese Yoshi game. Yeah, I guess there's not really too much else to see, because you can't really. I mean, like, we could move stuff and then we dig up other Game Boy related things. But anyway, if we keep moving down past all the Game Boy stuff, oh yeah, and as far as Game Boy games though, these bins are pretty much what hold my Game Boy games, other than the boxes, because there's not really too much else, too many other places for me to put them. Moving down to the next shelf, we have a whole assortment of different portable things. We have Game Gear, we have a Wonderswan Final Fantasy Special Edition, we have a Neo Geo Pocket, we have a Supervision, whole bunch of things. And yeah, again, portable shelves seem to get really messy for some reason, so kind of need to clean that up. And if we look at the bottom here, the very bottom over there, we have a whole bunch of different variations of Pong and some Atari, a whole bunch of different control sticks and cords for Atari, Coleco Telstar, so different things like that. And if you look at the bottom here, I don't know how I'm going to fit down here. We have the Miracle Piano for NES, and then a whole bunch of other controllers and cords and stuff too. Fortunately, it's not as clean as I would like it to be, but when space is an issue, there's not really too much you can do about it. We're trying to get more space, but we'll see how that goes. If we look up here, we have a whole bunch of different accessories, like the Coleco Vision Expansion Module 2, which is a steering wheel, another NES in the box, and a few more toys, and things like that. If we go down from there, Xbox shelf. Again, that Xbox 360 box is empty. The original Xbox, some controllers, carrying box, things like that. Keep going down. We have sort of like the older shelf here, so a whole bunch of Ataris, Leisure Vision, 5200 up there, Pong, whole bunch of Paddle 4s for some reason, not really quite sure why I have so many of those, but yeah, so we have that. And keep going down, and then you get to the miscellaneous computer shelf, where you have the Commodore 1541C in the box, and just different cords and mice and things like that. And then we go to the bottom, it's even more of a mess, where we just have the Tandy computer there, which is actually pretty neat. I have a game for that. And then, yeah, printer, and a whole bunch of discs here for the Amiga. All these cases are full of Amiga discs. And then the original Atari box there. Here, a few old slot card tracks. Video game organizer for Sega Genesis. And Atari Jaguar in the original box with a car on top of it for some reason. Not really sure what's up with that. And then if we look in here, we have my original blue 3DS box that I got on launch day. Pretty neat, although yeah, it kind of sucked that no good games came out until Ocarina of Time 3DS. Well, I guess that's debatable, really. So then here, whole bunch of different miscellaneous items. We have Mario Brothers Game & Watch here, and then the box underneath it has the Ball Game & Watch you can order off Club Nintendo. They're kind of just there because my Game & Watch cabinet here is kind of full with a whole bunch of boxed ones and some loose ones. I should probably clean up these shelves a bit, try to make them a bit cleaner. so that some stuff could fit on these. I guess they're probably not being used as good as they could be. That Hello Kitty deck of cards right there. That's actually one of the original decks of cards that Nintendo made back when they were a card company. You might have heard about that before they started making video games and did the whole Love Hotel thing, I guess. But yeah, so that Hello Kitty deck is one of the original decks, and the case actually says Nintendo right on it. So that's really neat. And then yeah, remember that Outzone arcade head there? I have a few things for arcade games like 1943 and Arkanoid. But remember the Outzone one, because I'm going to say something about that in a few minutes. Then we have a few displays for Mario Party, and then a Pokemon Gold Special Edition thing that came with Heart Gold when you pre-ordered it. And then these styrofoam things I believe I got from my aunt, and then she brought them back from a trip one time, and I thought that was really cool. And then we have Zelda there, and just things hanging from the ceiling. Again, so I believe we went over just about everything in this room, especially 2-Ball, which I said is probably my rarest item. There's a whole bunch of Aladdin games there, old Zeldas in the box, but yeah, I think we're done with this room. Which means it's time to move on to the next room. Don't worry, it's definitely nowhere near the size of this one. I'm just trying to make sure I talked about everything. I guess we'll just do a quick thing one more time where we just slowly go around it. Computer desk, NES part of it collection, TV with 16 consoles hooked up to it, and then a whole bunch of stuff. Super Nintendo, Dreamcast, Wii, NES, Game Boy, Xbox, whole ton of stuff. So yeah. And that's pretty much it for this room. So, what's next? Once this room is full, the only other thing to do is take over the laundry room. Yeah, because clean clothes, who needs that? Video games are way more important. So we have a few video game things up there. But what's mainly important is if we go to the left here, we have Pokemon Black and White display stand, which is pretty cool. But even cooler, if we go over here, a whole ton of boxed Super Nintendo games on this shelf here, with some neat things on top, some old books, Atari tape player, Atari flashback. So yeah, a whole bunch of neat boxed games, like some of my even best ones, like Chrono Trigger and Breath of Fire 2, some pretty rare boxed games. Keep going down, we have Nintendo Power. I have about 200 issues of Nintendo Power. I should probably be showing this, that it continues to the right. There's a whole bunch of stuff to the right we're going to get to too. But yeah, I love old Nintendo Power. They're really awesome. I love how you can kind of see. This is how it kind of dips off here. I guess one issue they're like, we're cutting off like a centimeter or two of the height of Nintendo Power, and then they just did. So yeah, I love the old Nintendo Power. I don't have a subscription or anything like that, but yeah, I still have about 200 out of, I think it's like 275 issues now. So that's pretty neat. It's fun to go back and read those. A whole bunch of crazy promotional tapes, things I think were sent to you if you bought Nintendo, if you were subscribed to Nintendo Power, and that Sega one that came in like post-cereal box, and Donkey Kong and the Crystal Coke. Now that's hilarious. And then here we just have some other random magazines like the Nintendo ones over there, like Top Secrets, cheat books, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Lots of fun. So if we go back up to the top, we have a big Pokemon White special box, wireless Atari controllers, Nintendo 64 boxes this time, and most of my Neo Geo collection. A whole bunch of neat things. So like we have the smaller games, which are the original, what's it called, home console versions. Then we have ones like the ones in the box, or the ones in the shock boxes, which were the arcade versions. So those are pretty neat. And in that white box, there's a Phantom 1 converter, so you can play all the MVS cartridges on the home console, which is really neat. So yeah, N64 boxes, a whole bunch of neat things here. I hope there's enough light. There's not too much light in this room. Keep going down my Vectrex collection, followed by a Tandy computer game, and a few other odds and ends. But yeah, Vectrex games are pretty neat. They all come with an insert that goes over the screen, which changes the color since it's actually a black and white console. Also continued Nintendo Power issues, and the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney art book, which is awesome. And then we have my VIC-20 collection, Odyssey 2, and Commodore 64 cartridges in the middle there, and a few other things as well. And then we keep going, and we have more Atari stuff, and just a whole bunch of random stuff like Roller Coaster Tycoon, Mac OS 8. Yeah, so that's pretty neat. And then that really only leaves us with one more place to look. So if we proceed out here to the biggest room in the basement, but definitely by far the messiest, it's not entirely a video game dedicated room. We have a whole bunch of different things along the wall here, dartboard, my dad's pinball machines over there, and my arcade machines. Rampage is missing the monitor right now. It's out to get fixed, or something happened to it. My Neo Geo 4-slot arcade machine, Outzone, and Arkanoid. Yes, everyone loves Arkanoid. yeah, two really probably noticeable games, Arkanoid and definitely Bust-A-Move. I mean, if you have a Neo Geo arcade machine, you definitely have to have Bust-A-Move in it. So yeah, like I said, 4 slots. The only thing that's in it right now is Bust-A-Move though, so like if we look in there, it's the only cartridge I bothered to put in. But yeah, it's a 4 slot and 9 credits for player 1 and 7 for 2. Outzone is a really neat game. It's neat because it's not really featured on any like console collections and things like that, and it's actually kind of hard to come by. And it's a really fun game, so it's really neat to have it. It's really fun. It gets really difficult too. Rampage probably doesn't need any explanation, so yeah, it's not. We're getting the monitor back soon. Something kind of wrong with it, but yeah. And then Bust-A-Move, very recognizable game. And then another TV here, so you can probably see my reflection again. A few Neo Geo games there. I can put in the 4 slot if I want to switch out. And then yeah, so this is just another TV we have down here. Not really any consoles hooked up to it, but like say I have some friends over and stuff, we'll usually bring a console out here too, so more than one person can be playing games at the same time. And I think that just about covers everything in my collection. I'm sure there's probably some things I'm forgetting. Some things that were probably buried and you couldn't see. But yeah, a whole bunch of different neat things in here. Yeah, like I said, my dad's pinball machines, Hot Hand. Yeah, he's always been a really big pinball fan. And Hot Hand was one that he played when he was in college, so he always wanted that, so he got it. And Big Guns is an awesome game too. It has multi-ball and upper layers and things like that, which is really neat. And then just a whole bunch of different things on the walls. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. So if you've watched this video right to the very end, I would like to thank you very much for doing so. I really appreciate it, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Hope I showed things that were interesting and talked enough about them and didn't just skip over things too fast. So like yeah, Nintendo Power, about 200 issues of that. And yeah, so that's about it. Thank you very much for watching. And watch, as soon as I stop recording, there's going to be something I forgot to talk about. But yeah, hopefully that's it. And yeah, so thanks again. And I hope you'll check out my other videos too, as I show a lot of neat things in more depth and play some video games that are hopefully fun. I'm always open for suggestions too on things to make videos about. So I really appreciate that when people give me suggestions. And then just overall have a lot of fun making videos. So thanks a lot for watching. And I hope you watch my other videos too. So thanks, and see you later.